The bank rejected her loan 7 times, then her homemade product became a global brand, Mara. Bennett was 34 years old when the seventh bank rejected her. The loan officer did not say no immediately. He spent 22 minutes turning the pages of her business plan, studying the photographs of her products, and entering numbers into a computer while Mara sat across from him with both hands wrapped around the strap of her worn leather bag. His office was on the second floor of a downtown bank, behind a wall of glass that allowed everyone outside to see the conversation without hearing it. Mara had chosen her clothes carefully that morning: a navy blouse, black trousers, low heels polished the night before. She had pulled her dark hair into a neat bun and covered the small burn mark on her wrist with concealer. The mark came from pouring melted wax into glass jars at 2 in the morning. The shoes came from a charity shop. The business plan had been printed at the public library because Mara's printer had stopped working 3 days earlier. The loan officer finally closed the folder. "Ms. Bennett, your presentation is impressive." Mara had already learned that bankers usually said something kind before saying no. "Thank you. You've clearly put a great deal of work into this." "I have. And your early sales are encouraging." "They've increased every month." He nodded. "But the bank has to evaluate risk." "I understand. You have limited collateral, inconsistent personal income, and no long-term commercial history." "I have 18 months of sales records, mostly from weekend markets and online orders." "Those are still sales." "Yes, but they do not guarantee that a permanent retail operation would succeed." "I'm not asking for a retail store." The man glanced at the business plan again. The loan would fund manufacturing equipment, packaging, certifications, and inventory. "Yes. That creates another concern." "What concern?" "Scale." Mara waited. He leaned forward slightly. "You're producing a handmade household product in your kitchen. Growing from a small local operation into a manufacturing business is a significant step. That is why I need the equipment. And that equipment would only have value if demand continues. I already have more orders than I can fill." "You have current interest." "I have purchase requests from 11 stores." "Requests are not contracts." "They won't sign contracts until I can guarantee supply." "And you cannot guarantee supply until you receive financing." "Yes." The officer gave a sympathetic smile. Mara hated that smile more than rejection. It made refusal sound inevitable, as if no one in the room had chosen it. "I'm afraid the bank cannot approve the application at this time." Mara did not move. "How much would you approve?" "I'm sorry?" "You rejected the amount. What amount would you approve?" He looked uncomfortable. "With your current profile, we would not be able to offer a business loan. Not even a smaller one." "No." "What would have to change?" "More operating history, stronger income, assets that could secure the debt. So I need the successful business before you will fund the business." "That is not exactly what I said." "It is exactly what you said." His expression cooled slightly. "We follow standard lending criteria." Mara nodded. She placed the business plan back inside her bag. "Thank you for your time." She stood before he could repeat that he was sorry. The loan officer walked her to the glass door. People in the banking hall looked up as she stepped out. Mara wondered whether they could tell she had failed. The first 6 times she had left the bank with some version of hope. One manager suggested she return after another year of sales. Another advised her to find a guarantor. A third told her that the product was interesting, but the category was crowded. A fourth said her personal credit had suffered too much during her divorce. The fifth said the business depended too heavily on Mara herself. The sixth banker told her that homemade brands rarely survived outside their local market. After the seventh rejection, hope felt less like courage and more like a refusal to understand evidence. Outside, rain had begun to fall. Mara stood beneath the bank's stone entrance and watched people hurry across the street. Her bag contained 7 rejection letters. She kept every one. At first, she told herself she was saving them for the day she succeeded. Now they felt like proof that 7 professionals had examined her idea and found it unworthy. She walked 3 blocks to a bus stop. The advertisement above the bench showed a smiling woman holding an expensive bottle of natural cleaning spray, Pure Home, Pure Life. The bottle looked almost exactly like the type of product Mara had been making in her kitchen for 18 months. The company behind it was worth hundreds of millions. Mara stared at the advertisement. The product cost $14. Her version worked better. She knew because she had tested both. But the woman on the poster had professional lighting, a designer kitchen, and a brand people trusted. Mara had an apartment that smelled permanently of citrus oil and vinegar. She had 1 folding table, 3 metal pots, a second-hand label printer, and $246 left in her business account. The bus arrived. Mara remained seated. The driver opened the doors, waited, then pulled away. She looked down at her hands. A small trace of dried lavender soap remained beneath 1 fingernail. The product that had led to 7 bank rejections had begun because her son could not stop coughing. 3 years earlier, Mara had lived in a 2-bedroom house outside the city with her husband, Evan, and their 6-year-old son, Noah. From the outside, the family looked stable. Evan worked in insurance. Mara managed customer accounts for a logistics company. They had 2 cars, a mortgage, family photographs in matching frames, and a calendar filled with school events and medical appointments. Noah had suffered from allergies since he was a baby. Dust, fragrance, several types of pollen, and some commercial cleaning products triggered coughing, rashes, and difficulty breathing. Mara cleaned constantly because dust made him sick. Then the cleaning products made him sick too. She tried fragrance-free sprays, organic detergents, specialty products ordered from health stores. Some did not work. Others cost too much. Several still contained ingredients she did not trust. One evening after Noah developed a rash across both arms, Mara sat on the bathroom floor reading the label on a bottle of surface cleaner. She recognized almost none of the chemical names. Evan stood in the doorway. "You're doing this again." "Doing what?" "Blaming everything on a product." "He reacted after I cleaned his room." "He reacts to everything." "That doesn't mean we ignore it." "You spent $70 last week on natural detergent." "I'm trying to help him." "We cannot keep buying every expensive thing with a green leaf on the label." Mara looked at the bottle. "Then I'll make something." Evan laughed. She looked up. "You'll make cleaning products?" "I can research the ingredients." "You work full-time." "So do you." "What does that have to do with anything?" "It means I know how much time I have." Evan shook his head. "Mara, not every problem needs to become a project." But it became one. Mara began reading at night. She studied ingredients, acidity, surfactants, preservatives, allergens, and safety requirements. She ordered small quantities of plant-based soap concentrates, citric acid, baking soda, mineral salts, and essential oils. The first formulas were terrible. One separated after 2 days. Another left a white film across the kitchen counter. A laundry mixture faded dark clothes. A bathroom paste hardened inside its jar. Evan complained about the boxes arriving at the house. Mara continued. She kept notes in a black notebook. Formula 12 cleaned glass but smelled too strongly. Formula 19 worked on grease but irritated her hands. Formula 27 remained stable for 3 weeks. Formula 31 removed soap residue without causing Noah to cough. She tested it in the kitchen, then the bathroom, then Noah's bedroom. For the first time in months, he did not wake coughing after she cleaned. Mara poured the formula into a plain spray bottle and wrote "Safe Home" on a piece of masking tape. That was the beginning. The marriage ended less than a year later, not because of cleaning products. The products were only one more argument in a house that had become full of them. Evan had been unhappy for years. Mara had been too busy solving practical problems to admit it. He moved out in March. By June, the house had been sold. Their savings disappeared into debt, legal fees, and the cost of starting again. Mara and Noah moved into a small apartment above a bakery. She lost her logistics job 2 months later when the company outsourced her department. For 6 weeks, she sent applications everywhere: retail stores, warehouses, administrative offices, call centers. Nothing paid enough to cover rent, childcare, and Noah's medical costs. Then a neighbor named Sheila knocked on her door. Sheila had borrowed Mara's homemade cleaning spray after seeing her use it in the hallway. "Can you make me another bottle?" "I suppose." "I'll pay you." "You don't have to." "I want to." Sheila handed her $10. Mara made the bottle. The next week, Sheila's sister ordered 3. Then a woman from the bakery downstairs asked for a laundry soap safe for sensitive skin. Mara modified one of her formulas. The baker's wife bought 2 jars. Within a month, Mara was making products every evening. She called the brand Kindred Home because she wanted the name to sound warm, trustworthy, and human. The first labels were printed on paper and covered with clear tape. The first containers came from a restaurant supply store. Mara sold 3 products: a concentrated cleaning spray, a laundry powder, a solid dish soap. Every ingredient appeared clearly on the label. No vague fragrance blends, no artificial colors, no claims she could not prove. Her first market stall cost $50. She sold $83 of product. After fees and materials, she earned $17. Noah stood beside her for 6 hours and told every customer that his mother had invented everything. At the end of the day, Mara bought him hot chocolate. "Are we rich now?" he asked. "No." "How much did we make?" $17. He thought about it. "That's not rich." "No." "But people liked it." "Yes." "Then make more." So she did. The second market earned $90 in profit. The third earned $140. Customers returned with empty containers and asked for refills. One woman said it was the first laundry product that had not irritated her daughter's skin. A restaurant owner bought the cleaning concentrate for his kitchen and ordered a case 2 weeks later. Mara created a small website. Orders began arriving from nearby towns. She spent mornings fulfilling orders, afternoons caring for Noah, and nights producing more stock. She returned to part-time administrative work because the business did not yet pay enough. For 18 months, she slept between 4 and 5 hours a night. The kitchen became a production room. The dining table became a packing station. Boxes filled the hallway. The bathtub sometimes held containers waiting to be washed. Noah learned to eat breakfast beside cartons of spray bottles. "You know, most people use tables for food," he said one morning. "Most people don't own a cleaning empire." "Is this an empire?" "Not yet." He nodded seriously. "Good, because empires should have better chairs." Mara smiled. Then she checked the business account and stopped smiling. Sales were increasing, profit was not. She bought ingredients in quantities too small to receive meaningful discounts. Shipping costs consumed nearly a quarter of online revenue. Packaging prices changed every month. Producing each bottle by hand took too long. On her best week, Mara could make 400 units. Demand had reached nearly 700. She began delaying orders. Customers complained. 2 stores stopped carrying Kindred Home because deliveries were inconsistent. The business had reached the exact point every banker warned her about: too large for a kitchen, too small for financing. The loan would have allowed Mara to rent a workshop, purchase mixing tanks, order packaging in bulk, and complete certifications required by major retailers. She needed $80,000. To the banks, it was too much. To manufacturing companies, it was almost nothing. After the 7th rejection, Mara returned to her apartment shortly before dark. Noah was sitting at the table doing homework beside a tower of shipping boxes. He looked up. "Did they say yes?" Mara removed her wet coat. "No." "Again?" "Yes." "How many banks is that?" 7. Noah frowned. "Maybe banks don't understand cleaning products." "Maybe." "Did you show them the reviews?" "Yes." "The letter from the woman whose baby had the rash?" "Yes." And the shops? All of it. What did they say? That the business is risky. Noah looked around the apartment. It doesn't look risky. Mara followed his gaze. Glass jars covered the counters. Paper bags of ingredients sat beneath the table. A mixing pot occupied half the stove. The apartment did not look risky to Noah because he had grown up inside the risk. Mara sat across from him. I may need to stop. He stared at her. Stop what? Kindred home. Why? I cannot keep making everything here. Then make it somewhere else. That costs money. Sell more. I can't make more without better equipment. Then get the equipment. The banks won't lend me the money. Noah looked frustrated. Why do banks decide? The question stayed with her. Why did banks decide? Because they controlled capital. Because suppliers wanted payment. Because equipment companies did not accept determination. Because landlords did not offer workshops in exchange for good customer reviews. But the question contained something useful. Banks were not the only people with money. Customers had money, stores had money, distributors had money. Mara opened her laptop. For the next 3 hours, she studied crowdfunding campaigns. She found food companies funded by customers, clothing brands launched through pre-orders, inventors who collected millions before manufacturing a single unit. Most campaigns looked expensive. Professional videos, graphic designers, advertising agencies. Mara had none of those. She did have 1,700 customer email addresses, hundreds of reviews, photographs, a story, and a product people already used. The next morning, she called a former customer named Tessa Grant. Tessa was a freelance photographer who had purchased Kindred home products at a market. I need a video, Mara said. What kind? One that makes people believe I'm more successful than I am. That sounds dishonest. Then one that makes the product look as good as it actually is. That sounds better. Tessa agreed to help for a small fee and a percentage of the campaign if it succeeded. They filmed in Mara's apartment. Mara wanted to hide the boxes, stained countertops, and old stove. Tessa refused. This is the story. The kitchen looks terrible. It looks real. No one wants to invest in terrible. They're not investing in the kitchen. The video began with Mara cleaning Noah's room. She explained his allergies. She showed the black notebook containing 31 failed formulas. She showed the first bottle labeled with masking tape. Then she stood inside the crowded kitchen. I have spent 18 months building Kindred Home one bottle at a time, she said to the camera. Now more people want these products than I can serve. 7 banks have told me the business is too risky to grow. I'm asking the people who already believe in it to decide whether they are right. The campaign offered product bundles in exchange for contributions. $25 for a starter set, $50 for a family pack, $100 for a year of refills, $500 for a lifetime discount and the contributor's name printed on a wall inside the future workshop. The goal was $100,000. Mara believed they might raise $30,000. The campaign launched at 9 on a Tuesday morning. For the first hour, nothing happened. Then Sheila contributed $50. The baker downstairs contributed $100. A customer from another state ordered a family pack. By noon, the campaign had raised $4,000. Mara sent the link to everyone on the mailing list. Customers shared it. Parents of children with allergies posted the video in online groups. An environmental blogger wrote about the refill system. A nurse shared the campaign with hospital employees. By midnight, they had raised $19,000. Mara slept for 2 hours. At 6 in the morning, the total had reached $31,000. At the end of the first week, Kindred Home had raised $87,000. Then growth slowed. The campaign had 12 days remaining. Mara needed $13,000 more to reach the goal. She spent $300 on online advertising. It produced almost nothing. Several business websites refused to cover the campaign. One editor told her the product was not sufficiently innovative. A large cleaning company released a new sensitive skin range during the same week. Its advertisements appeared everywhere. Mara watched the campaign total remain unchanged for nearly an entire day, $91,412, close enough to imagine success, far enough to fail. On the ninth day, Mara received an email from a woman named Dr. Evelyn Park. Evelyn was a pediatric dermatologist with a large online following. Her daughter had used Kindred home laundry powder for 6 months. She asked whether Mara could provide ingredient documentation. Mara sent everything: test results, supplier certificates, formula safety information. Evelyn called that evening. "Your transparency is unusual," she said. "I list every ingredient. Most brands say natural and hide behind proprietary blends. I don't want customers guessing. Have you had the product independently tested for common irritants?" "Not fully. That is part of what the campaign will fund." Evelyn paused. "Would you mind if I discussed it publicly?" Mara sat upright. "You've used it?" "For months." "And you like it?" "My daughter stopped developing rashes after we switched. I cannot claim your product caused that improvement without proper testing." "I understand. But I can explain why ingredient transparency matters." The next morning, Evelyn posted a 12-minute video. She did not tell people to buy Kindred Home. She explained the difficulty families faced when products used vague labeling. She showed Mara's ingredient list as an example of better transparency. At the end, she mentioned the campaign. Within 6 hours, Kindred Home reached $100,000. Mara was standing in the kitchen when the number changed. Noah screamed. She covered her mouth with both hands. The total continued rising. 104,000, 112, 130. By the time the campaign closed, 4,206 people had contributed $286,000. Mara read the number repeatedly. It was more money than she had ever controlled. It was also not profit. Every dollar had already been promised to equipment, products, shipping, rent, taxes, testing, and campaign fees. Success did not remove risk. It multiplied responsibility. Within 1 month, Mara rented a 4,000-square-foot workshop in an old industrial building. The floor was uneven, the loading door jammed. The office walls were painted a shade of green that made everyone look ill. To Mara, it was beautiful. She hired 4 people. Tessa managed brand photography and online content. A former cosmetics production supervisor named Nina Alvarez became operations manager. 2 women from Mara's market community handled filling and packaging. Mara purchased a stainless steel mixing tank, a semi-automatic filling machine, label equipment, storage racks, and safety gear. The first day the mixing tank arrived, Noah stood inside the empty workshop and looked up at it. "That's bigger than our kitchen." "Much bigger." "Does this mean the empire started?" Mara looked around the warehouse. "Maybe the smallest empire in the city." The first large production run failed. 6,000 bottles of cleaning concentrate began separating inside their containers. Nina noticed the problem before shipment. Mara stood beside the pallets, watching a pale layer form near the top of each bottle. "How much?" she asked. "Ingredients, bottles, labels, labor?" "Yes." "Almost $24,000. Mara closed her eyes. "What happened?" "The mixing speed may have been too low, or the larger batch changed the temperature profile. We used the same formula. A recipe that works in a pot does not automatically work in a 1,000-liter tank." Mara looked at the campaign schedule. The first customer shipments were due in 11 days. "Can we fix it?" "Not in the bottles." "Can we remix it?" "Possibly, but we need testing." "How long?" 2 weeks. "We don't have 2 weeks." "We do if we tell customers the truth." Mara stared at the separated liquid. The bank officers had warned her about scale. For the first time, she understood that they had not been entirely wrong. Growth was not simply producing more of the same thing. It changed the chemistry, the process, the timing, and the consequences of every mistake. Mara emailed all 4,206 campaign customers. She explained the production problem. She apologized. She offered refunds to anyone unwilling to wait. 412 people requested refunds. The money leaving the account frightened her, but thousands stayed. Some sent messages of encouragement. One customer wrote, "I supported a person building something, not a factory pretending it never makes mistakes." Nina adjusted the production method. The second batch remained stable. Testing confirmed quality. Orders shipped 3 weeks late. The campaign customers posted photographs when their boxes arrived. Kindred Home survived its first manufacturing failure. Then came the certifications, then retailer insurance, then packaging regulations, then shipping damage. Glass jars broke in transit, paper labels peeled in humid climates. A supplier delivered the wrong type of soap concentrate. The filling machine stopped working during a major order. Every problem cost money. Every solution required another system. Mara worked 12-hour days and answered customer emails at night. She still took the bus because she refused to use business money for a car. At the end of the first year, Kindred Home generated $1.8 million in revenue. Profit was $63,000. The bank loan officer who had rejected her called in December. "I've been following the company," he said. Mara recognized his voice immediately. "I'm surprised. We're very impressed by your growth." "Thank you." The bank would be interested in discussing a commercial credit facility. "A loan?" "Yes." "Secured by what?" "Your receivables, inventory, and operating history." "So now the business is successful enough to fund." He paused. "Your risk profile has changed." Mara looked around the workshop. 30 employees were packing holiday orders. "I'll review the terms." She did not reject him because of pride. She needed financing, but she negotiated every fee. Kindred Home's first major retail opportunity came from Greenway Market, a national chain specializing in natural and environmentally responsible products. The buyer, Charles Whitman, visited the workshop in person. He wore a tan coat, expensive shoes, and the expression of a man who expected companies to perform for him. He walked through production with Mara and Nina. "How many units can you produce per week?" he asked. 20,000 across the current range," Nina answered. "We would require 35,000. We can add a second shift." "How quickly?" 6 weeks. Charles examined a bottle. "The packaging feels local." "It is recyclable and designed for refills," Mara said. "I mean, it looks small. We are still a growing company. Customers do not want products that look as though they were made in someone's kitchen." Mara held his gaze. "They were made in my kitchen." "I know, that is a good founder story. It is not necessarily the shelf image." "What would you change?" He showed her several competitor products: smooth plastic bottles, metallic labels, minimal text, luxury colors. Mara examined them. "Where are the ingredients?" "On the back. In small print." "That is standard. Our ingredient list stays visible. It makes the package look clinical. It makes it honest." Charles set the bottle down. "Greenway operates 400 stores. Shelf space is competitive. You need to decide whether you are protecting the original product or building a national brand." Mara thought about the bus advertisement outside the bank. A beautiful bottle, a perfect kitchen, a promise designed by people who understood desire. She wanted national distribution. She also knew what made Kindred Home different. "We can improve the design," she said, "but we won't hide the ingredients." Charles smiled slightly. Founders are always inflexible in the beginning. And buyers are always confident customers will accept whatever is normal. His smile disappeared. Nina looked at Mara. Charles closed his folder. "Send revised packaging concepts within 30 days. After he left, Nina shut the office door. "You nearly lost that account." "I know. We need Greenway." "I know. You cannot fight every person who challenges the brand." "I'm not fighting change." It looked like it. Mara sat down. "What if we become exactly what customers were trying to avoid?" "Better packaging does not make us dishonest. Hiding information does. So don't hide it. design around it. That became the solution. Tessa and a small design studio created a new bottle with a clear front panel. The ingredient list became part of the design, large, readable, impossible to miss. The label included a simple explanation of what every ingredient did. No green leaves, no vague claims, no photographs of plants that had almost nothing to do with the formula, just the product, the purpose, and the truth. Charles did not like it. Greenway's customer testing did. Kindred Home entered 120 stores on a trial basis. The first shipment sold through in 9 days. Greenway expanded the brand nationwide. Revenue grew from $1.8 million to $8.4 million in 12 months. Mara hired experienced executives. Some were useful, some were dangerous. A chief sales officer pushed aggressive discounts that increased orders but damaged profit. A marketing director recommended creating cheaper formulas for mass retail while keeping the original version for premium customers. Mara refused. A manufacturing consultant advised moving production overseas. The numbers showed it would reduce cost by nearly 40%. What happens to the workshop? Mara asked. It becomes unnecessary. And the employees? Some could move into logistics or administration. How many? Perhaps 30%. Mara looked at the proposal. 140 people worked at Kindred Home. Many had joined when the company was still filling bottles by hand. Where would production move? The consultant named 3 countries. Would the formulas change? Certain ingredients may need substitution based on local supply. No. Mara, every global consumer company optimizes manufacturing. We are not every global consumer company. That attitude can become expensive. So can losing the reason customers trust us. The board supported partial outsourcing. Mara did not. She still owned a controlling share, but investors had joined during expansion. They wanted growth. They respected the mission as long as it produced returns. At the next board meeting, investor Philip Crane addressed her directly. You are managing the company as though it is still a market stall. And you are managing it as though customers cannot read. This is not about customers reading. It is about reducing quality to improve margins. It is about becoming competitive. We are competitive. In one category, we are growing. Not fast enough. Mara looked at the financial report. Kindred Home was profitable. Sales had doubled. Customer retention was unusually high, but a competitor backed by a multinational company had expanded into Europe and Asia. Investors feared being left behind. Philip continued, You built an excellent product. Now you need to let experienced people build the corporation. Mara recognized the sentence. Different words, same message as the banks. Your work is impressive, but you are not equipped for the next stage. She looked around the boardroom. When she began, no one believed the company could scale. Now that it had scaled, people believed success qualified them to take it away from the values that created it. What is the proposed saving? Mara asked. The finance director displayed the figure. $14 million over 3 years. Mara requested 2 weeks. She spent those 2 weeks studying production differently, not as a manufacturer protecting jobs, as a systems problem. Kindred Home's facilities were inefficient, small batches, too much manual movement, high packaging costs, separate filling lines, waste created by frequent product changes. Outsourcing was cheaper because the company had grown faster than its infrastructure. Mara called Nina. What if we do not move production? The board will force the issue eventually. What if we build the most efficient plant in the category? Nina stared at her. That would cost more than outsourcing. Initially. How much? They calculated. A new automated facility would cost $60 million. Robotic filling, water recycling, renewable energy, bulk ingredient storage, advanced testing laboratories, a packaging recovery center, a visitor area where customers could see production. Mara presented the plan to the board. Philip looked at the first page and laughed. You rejected saving $14 million and returned with a proposal to spend 60? Over 10 years, the plant saves more. If sales continue, they will. That is not a financial assumption. It is supported by our retention and expansion data. The debt would be enormous. So was the risk when I produced the first batch. This is not a kitchen experiment. No, it is the infrastructure required for a global company. The board vote split. Mara used her controlling authority. Construction began. Business publications criticized the decision. One headline called it "Founder Sentimentality Disguised as Sustainability." Another analyst predicted the facility would become an expensive monument to an outdated manufacturing model. Mara saved every article. She placed them in the same drawer as the 7 rejection letters. The new plant took 2 years to build. During construction, Kindred Home entered Canada, the United Kingdom, Germany, and Australia. International expansion created new problems: different labeling laws, shipping restrictions, customer preferences, language requirements. In Germany, the original lavender product sold poorly. In Australia, concentrated refill tablets became the best-selling item. In Japan, retailers requested smaller packaging and stricter quality documentation. Mara did not force one product into every market. She built local teams. She listened. She kept formulas transparent but adapted scents, packaging sizes, and distribution methods. The company's strongest international product emerged from India. A chemist named Annika Rao developed a cleaning concentrate designed to work effectively in small amounts of water. The formula was originally intended for regions facing water shortages. It later became popular in hotels, hospitals, and households around the world because it reduced both water use and shipping weight. Mara gave Annika public credit. Industry reporters found that unusual. "Why wouldn't I?" Mara asked. "Founders usually become the face of innovation." "I did not invent her formula, but it belongs to your company." "That is not the same thing." Kindred Home began attracting scientists, designers, and operators who were tired of companies hiding their work behind executive personalities. The new plant opened during the company's 7th year. It was the largest low-waste household product facility in the region. Solar panels covered the roof. Processing water was cleaned and reused. Packaging waste was collected, sorted, and returned to suppliers. Customers could send empty containers back at no cost. The plant produced 3 times more product with less energy per unit than the previous facilities. Costs fell below the outsourcing proposal by the end of the 2nd year. The 30% of employees expected to survive an overseas move became a workforce of more than 800. Philip Crane congratulated Mara during the opening ceremony. "You were right." She looked at him. "About which part?" "The plant." "You mean the numbers worked?" "That is usually what right means in business." "Not always." The company faced its most serious crisis 1 year later. A social media post claimed that Kindred Home's laundry powder had caused chemical burns on a child. The photograph showed red skin across the child's back. The mother wrote that she had trusted the brand because it was marketed as safe. The post spread rapidly. Within hours, thousands of people demanded answers. Retailers contacted the company. Customer service lines flooded. The stock of one major retail partner fell after analysts connected it to Kindred Home. Mara convened the quality team. "Find the batch." They traced the product code. Testing records showed no abnormalities. Retained samples were analyzed again. The formula matched specifications. The packaging was correct. The child's mother sent the remaining powder for independent testing. The laboratory found contamination with a powerful industrial disinfectant. The substance was not used anywhere in Kindred Home's facility. The investigation eventually discovered that the product had been purchased through an unauthorized online seller. The package was counterfeit. Someone had copied Kindred Home's label and filled the container with cheap bulk powder. The company's legal team advised Mara to issue a statement denying responsibility. She refused. "A child was injured because someone trusted our name." "It was not our product," the general counsel said. "It was our brand on the package." That distinction matters legally. It does not matter to the mother. What are you proposing? We cover the medical expenses. That could be interpreted as accepting liability. Then write the payment so it does not. We also need to emphasize the counterfeit source. Yes, and create a verification system. Within 6 weeks, every Kindred home product received a traceable code customers could scan to verify origin. The company funded the child's treatment. Mara met the family privately. She did not bring cameras. The crisis cost millions. It also changed industry standards. Other brands adopted verification systems. Major online marketplaces strengthened controls for household products. Kindred Home's honesty during the investigation increased trust rather than destroying it. By its 10th year, the company sold products in 62 countries. Annual revenue exceeded $2 billion. Kindred Home operated research centers on 3 continents and manufacturing facilities in 4 regions. Its products appeared in supermarkets, pharmacies, hotels, schools, hospitals, and homes. The original concentrated spray remained a bestseller. The formula had improved, the principle had not. Every ingredient was still listed clearly. Every package still explained what it contained and why. Mara's personal wealth appeared in business magazines. The numbers embarrassed her. They reduced 10 years of work to an estimate beside a photograph. She purchased a comfortable home for herself and Noah. She created a medical trust for his care. She paid off the debt from her divorce. She bought a car only after the company entered its 4th year. Even then, she selected a practical model. Noah complained, "You own a global company. It has 4 wheels. It looks like a refrigerator. It is reliable. You could buy anything." That is how people end up buying stupid things. Noah was 16 by then. He had grown tall, sarcastic, and deeply interested in product design. He spent summers working in the warehouse. Mara refused to give him an executive internship. He began by cleaning returned containers. "You started the company because of me," he argued. "That does not qualify you to manage people." "I know the founder. So does everyone in this building." "You're my mother." "Exactly. You need to work harder." The 7th bank that rejected Mara eventually became one of Kindred Home's international lenders. The original loan officer had retired. The bank invited Mara to speak at its annual small business conference. She accepted on one condition. They had to allow rejected applicants to attend, not only current clients. The event took place in the same downtown building where Mara had received the 7th refusal. The glass offices remained. The waiting area had been renovated. Mara stood on a stage beneath a large screen displaying the Kindred Home logo. Bank executives sat in the front row. Hundreds of entrepreneurs filled the hall. During the question period, a woman raised her hand. She appeared to be in her 40s and wore a catering uniform. "My loan was rejected this morning," she said. The room became uncomfortable. Mara looked toward the bank executives, then back at the woman. "What are you building?" "A frozen meal company, traditional food from my country." "Do customers buy it?" "At markets." "Do they return?" "Yes." "What is preventing growth?" "Commercial kitchen costs." The answer sounded familiar. Mara stepped away from the podium. "Meet my team after this event." A bank executive leaned toward another and whispered. Mara noticed. She continued, "I cannot promise investment, but I can promise that someone will evaluate what you have built instead of only what you lack." Applause spread through the room. After the event, the bank's chief executive approached Mara. "That put us in an awkward position. Rejection usually does. We cannot fund every passionate founder." "I know." "Banks have risk obligations." "I know that too." "Then what would you have us do differently?" Mara looked through the glass wall toward the offices. "Stop treating the absence of wealth as the absence of ability." The executive was quiet. Mara continued. "When I applied here, I had customers, demand, a working product, and documented growth. What I did not have was property, inherited money, or someone wealthy enough to guarantee me. The company was still risky. Yes. It could have failed. Yes. Then the rejection was not irrational. No. He seemed surprised. Mara reached into her bag and removed the original rejection letter. She had kept it for 10 years. The bank made a reasonable decision based on a system designed to protect the bank. She held up the letter. I made a different decision based on what I knew about the product, the customers, and myself. She returned it to the envelope. The lesson is not that you were foolish and I was brilliant. The lesson is that a bank's no is an assessment of risk. It is not a prophecy. Kindred Home later created a financing program for small consumer brands. It did not give money away. Mara did not believe charity could replace discipline. Founders submitted products, customer data, production plans, and honest financial records. The program offered small loans, manufacturing access, testing support, and mentorship. Repayment adjusted during difficult months. No founder had to risk a family home as collateral. The first company funded by the program was the frozen meal business owned by the woman from the banking conference. 3 years later, her products entered national supermarkets. Mara kept the first package in her office. Beside it stood the original bottle with "Safe Home" written on masking tape. The old black notebook rested beneath glass. Formula 1 through Formula 31, failures, adjustments, observations, and one solution that worked. On the 10th anniversary of the crowdfunding campaign, Kindred Home held a celebration inside the original workshop. The building had been preserved as a training and development center. The uneven floor remained. The loading door had been repaired. The terrible green office walls had been repainted, then restored after employees insisted they were part of the company's history. More than 1,000 employees attended in person or by video. Early customers were invited. Sheila stood near the front. Tessa displayed photographs from the first campaign. Nina, now Global Chief Operating Officer, showed the separated bottle from the failed production run. Noah had created a small exhibit. 7 framed bank rejection letters hung along one wall. Employees took photographs beside them. Mara found him adjusting the 7th frame. "You kept all of them?" he asked. "Yes." "Why?" "At first for revenge." "What changed?" "I became too busy." He smiled. "Do they still bother you?" Mara looked at the letters. "No." "That's a lie." She glanced at him. "You're getting rude." "I'm getting accurate." She looked again. The letters still carried a small amount of pain, not because the banks had been wrong to consider risk, because each rejection had arrived when Mara was already exhausted, frightened, and uncertain. Every no had felt like confirmation that people with better offices understood her future more clearly than she did. "I suppose they remind me how close I came to stopping," she said. "But you didn't." "No." "Because I told you to make more. You were very demanding. I should receive founder shares. You received hot chocolate. That was a bad deal." The celebration began. Mara stepped onto a small stage built near the old packing area. She looked across the crowd. Scientists, warehouse teams, drivers, designers, customer service workers, engineers, store employees. People in cities she had never visited watched through large screens. Behind her stood the first folding table from the apartment. The surface was stained from years of mixing and packing. Mara placed her hand on it. 10 years ago, this was our production line," she said. The room laughed. It was also our dining table, shipping department, office, and occasionally Noah's homework desk. Noah raised his hand from the front row. "Mostly shipping department." Mara smiled. "When I asked banks for help, I believed the loan was the only bridge between the company I had and the company I wanted to build." She looked toward the rejection letters. "I was wrong." The room became quiet. The banks did not create the obstacle. They revealed it. I had built a product, but I had not yet built enough proof. I had customers, but I had not yet understood the power of their trust. I thought I needed permission from an institution. What I actually needed was a way to let the people who believed in the product participate in its future. She looked at Sheila, at Tessa, at Nina, at Noah. At every stage, someone told us the next step was too large, moving out of the kitchen, entering national retail, building our own plant, expanding globally, refusing to hide ingredients, protecting local manufacturing. Every time the warning sounded reasonable. She paused. Sometimes it was reasonable. Several executives smiled, but reasonable fear should improve a plan. It should not automatically destroy it. After the speech, Mara returned to the old office. The crowd continued outside. Music played. Employees laughed near the packing tables. Mara opened the desk drawer. Inside were copies of the campaign orders, the first retailer agreement, the first $1 million revenue report, and a folded sheet of notebook paper. Noah had written it when he was 7. The letters were uneven. Kindred Home Plan 1, make more. 2, help people. 3, get better chairs. Mara laughed quietly. The company had spent millions on strategy. Consultants had produced hundreds of presentations. Boards had debated margins, expansion, risk, and market position. But the child's plan remained surprisingly accurate. Make more, help people, get better chairs. Mara folded the paper and returned it to the drawer. Before leaving, she picked up the original bottle. The masking tape had yellowed. The handwritten words were fading. Safe home. She remembered standing in Noah's room after spraying the formula for the first time, waiting, listening for coughing that did not come. There had been no global ambition in that moment, no crowdfunding campaign, no retail contracts, no factories or international offices, only a mother trying to solve one problem with the limited tools available to her. That was what people forgot when they told the story. They said 7 banks rejected Mara Bennett, and then her product became a global brand. The sentence made success sound sudden. It removed the years between rejection and recognition, the failed formulas, the lost sleep, the separated production batch, the refund requests, the broken containers, the boardroom fights, the counterfeit crisis, the terrifying decisions made without knowing whether they would work. The banks had rejected a business plan. They had not rejected the global company because the global company did not exist yet. Mara had to build it. One bottle, one customer, one mistake, one honest decision at a time. She turned off the office light and walked back toward the celebration. On the wall outside, the 7 rejection letters reflected beneath the overhead lamps. Beside them, Noah had installed an 8th frame. It contained no letter, only a white sheet of paper with one sentence printed in black. The 8th answer came from us.